So this is our first attempt at getting a training video together to help people get a basic setup with OBS. This is not exhaustive by any stretch, and we're hoping that this will get you started so that everybody can start participating in tech jams and at least get to a point where you can figure things out more on your own and also in connection with other people who are part of any particular tech jam. If the tech jam as a name works for you. So there we go. First thing we're doing is what, Ian? We're opening up OBS?
Yeah. So I need to make a couple of caveats here.
Oh, okay.
We are working with Macs here rather than with a Windows machine. A Windows machine is going to be a little different, and it might not be as complicated in certain ways. So we're doing the more complicated.
Right. When hopefully my plan is when we're done with this to get together with Kenzie and some other people and record ways that we can get this set up using a PC so that everyone is covered. Linux people, you're on your own. You're already smart enough to run Linux. You can figure this out.
If you're working with Linux, you have everything you need already.
You don't need us if you're already on Linux. So yeah. Great. All right. So then, fantastic. And oh, right. And one other thing we were talking about beforehand is if you are on a Windows machine, Mac, you have to jump through the hoops. But on Windows, there are apparently 2 or 3 different ways that you could set up your system and work with audio and all the rest of that. So the way that we eventually show you may not be your way, in which case I invite you to create your own video to show us how you do it. Great.
Actually, the audio on Mac is fussy, and there are a couple of different ways of doing it on Mac. On Windows, I think it does it. It does it for you for the most part.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I reversed it. When you explained it earlier, I thought you were talking about PCs as having options.
No, Mac is the one that is a little fussier.
Isn't that funny? Because normally it's reversed where PC just says you do whatever you want, and Mac is like, you will do it our way, and you will love it.
Yeah, with this is open source software,
right?
And as it's open source, people work on it for free,
right?
And what people choose to work on is what is causing them personal problems, and more people use OBS with Windows than with Mac, so Windows gets a little bit more love.
It's ever our fate as Mac users. All right, so we're starting off with opening up OBS.
Yep. By the way, can you share your screen for me? Because I can't see it.
I can.
Oh, and I need to give you permission to do that. So,
yes, you do.
Go for it.
It's very passive-aggressive asking me to do something that I can't do. I want that one. There we go. Great. So we've opened up OBS here. Now, this is studio mode. When you first open it up, it may look like this, where you have a single screen. And
you also will probably just see a black screen rather than all of this.
So in the words of Arthur Dent, don't panic. But I am going to be shifting over to studio mode just because that's how we're going to be working most of the time. So right now what you've got is on your right-hand side where program is what is actually going to be broadcast to the world. On your left-hand side where preview is what is going to be broadcast, or what is ready to be sent to the world, but you get that one last look at it before it goes out live. Down here in the lower left are scenes, which you're going to be building, and we're going to show you how to do that. Sources, there's the sources that you use to build the scenes. And then over here we have some controls, start streaming, it's kind of obvious, start recording, also kind of obvious. And then settings, which we will be getting into in a second. In the center right here are some quick controls to determine your transitions, whether you're going to do fades, fade to black, cuts, whatever, and we'll show you a little bit about that in a second. So, what would be the first thing you would do for setting this up, Ian?
First thing is, so also don't forget that audio mixer down there.
Oh, well, oh, right. Well, so we'll get into all the joy of the audio mixer here in a second.
Yeah. Audio is complicated on Mac, so we're going to remember that it's complicated. We're going to come back to it in just a minute.
Right.
But go ahead and mute those for now.
And obviously, as you can see, all you have to do is just tap on the little volume indicator, and it's muted.
So I have to say also that audio is going to be the biggest headache that you will have working with this software. And as a streamer, more times than not, getting the audio wrong is both the most annoying thing and also the most impactful. So just keep a look at the audio. Now, I guess the first thing that we're going to need is to set up themes. Now, you've already done this. You've got a lobby and a closing and then a desktop. So it's sort of like before you start your stream, then your stream. And this is what happens after your stream is done. And why do we need a lobby and a closing? Because much like with if you're in a theater, you open the house a little bit before you start the show. You don't start the show and then open the house. And here you are, just bam, get into your seat right away. A few minutes of lobby where you've got some video on a loop gives you a chance to look at the stream, see if the audio is working. Also, do some quick quality checks and allow people to filter in, grab their snacks and get themselves seated. And then you start the stream properly by transitioning into the actual show, which mostly what we're going to do on Mac is just broadcast whatever is on our desktop, our monitor. And then when you close, you do the same thing. You show another video. It says like, hey, bye guys. It's a video, we're done. And it's usually like a card and some sound. It's good to have sound with your with the video that you do for the lobby and for the closing, because that way people don't think that something's wrong, which they will think if there's no sound. Right.
Unfortunately, things are so kooky with Zoom and the technology. It's still so much in its infancy that people are more used to things going wrong than going right. So you want to send that message, all is as it should be, as smoothly and constantly as you can.
Yeah.
One of the other things I think, Ian, you were talking about is we can also build transition scenes. And so it's not just lobby, desktop, and closing. It would be outdoor transition, indoor transition, moody transition, fairy tale transition, and Twilight Zone transition, right?
Yeah, you can have you can have different kinds of transitions. You don't have to have them all in one setup like this. So like you might have one set of these for each show that you do. So if you do Twilight Zone, which is very different from Fairy Tale, well, I mean, anyway, they're different. And they need different videos for their opening, and they need different videos for their closing. And maybe they need a different little on-screen bug someplace to say like Fairy Tale or Twilight Zone. Those things, it's good to keep each show encapsulated in its own set of scenes. So if you go into like the Mac, and if you go up into, I think the profile, or maybe it's, no, scene selection. You should see that up there, right?
Yep.
And then you'll see that there's something that says untitled right now.
Yep.
If we title that as like, a show, then we can have another one for a different show. And it's going to give you a different set of scenes.
Cool.
And the same thing goes with profile. The profile you can also set separately. Some people want to stream to Twitch. Some people want to stream to YouTube Live or Facebook. You can do those things with OBS. But you might have different settings for different shows there.
Fantastic.
Okay, so let's set up let's show the lobby video first. Can you click on lobby? So what we've done is you'll see just a black screen here. And if we transition, you should actually start to see a little video that's going to show up. You will not hear any audio. This is a video I recorded earlier. You will notice that the media source now has an audio in the audio mixer of sound that's going on that you are not hearing, right? That's the audio that's streaming out. If we were broadcasting this and then you hit start streaming, now we're showing that lobby video over and over and over again while while your audience is coming in. And you'll notice that the mic aux and mic aux 2, which are terrible names, are both on there. Those are your actual microphones for you and for your computer's desktop. And those are turned off. If you turn them on, then even if the video is playing, they'll still hear you.
So it's best to keep mic aux and mic aux 2 turned off the entire time unless for whatever reason the director wants you to insert yourself into the show.
Getting a lot of lag on the video here.
My system is probably stressed. I will stop streaming. There we go.
I just heard your video come back very quickly, or your audio. Yes, you can turn on your mic separately, and you're going to want to have headphones on for this, because otherwise, when you turn on your mic and you start talking into it, you'll hear the audio coming in twice. Once from the actual computer, and then once as your speakers from your computer bounce the sound off your ceiling and then back into your microphone.
Great. Okay. So right now I have this image kind of in, it can be resized. What happens if you create a scene and you start putting it together, but it's not the right shape? I believe mine, when I first built it, was like that. So you have to go in and you have to resize everything so that it fits the screen, right?
Right, and you can also size it just a little bit large if you want to cut out certain parts of the screen that other people shouldn't see.
Right.
Also, that's very useful if you full screen a Zoom window and you're just broadcasting the Zoom window.
Right.
Now you'll notice if you go into the sources for that one, you'll see it says laptop.
Yep.
Right. Now this is a name that Robert put on there. What he's referring to is the monitor. And so what's happening here is you're capturing everything that is on that particular monitor. And that's the best way to do it for Mac. For PC, something that's a little bit more powerful, you can use something else, which is cool. But for our purposes, just broadcast what's on the desktop and cut out the top and the bottom of it so that you don't get people's names or Zoom settings or things like that.
Right. And I should mention that I do have a 2-monitor setup. This one right here that I'm looking at is my laptop, and then over here I have a 27-inch monitor that I'm working at Zoom and OBS. Generally speaking, you're probably going to want to have 2 monitors or a laptop and a monitor, just because there's a lot of moving parts and you're going to need to full screen a window, because otherwise it gets weird where you're only grabbing a piece of that window, but if you accidentally move something in front of it, then it might get broadcast out to the world. Okay, great. So how do we go about creating a scene? So let's just create something other than a lobby scene. How would we go about doing that?
Well, go ahead and hit the little plus button down there at the bottom.
For scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
And name it something useful to yourself, not just scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. You'll get really confused.
Right.
So let's say, we'll have like let's create a midpoint break scene. So like the video goes on and they're going to have a halftime or like, you know, an intermission. Intermission, that's what we're calling.
Intermission.
We'll create an intermission card. There's going to be a scene that's intermission.
Great. Now I should point out that I was staring right down here at the scenes box when I hit the plus and nothing popped up. And I didn't even notice that the name for the new scene popped up at the top of my screen here. So I'm like, wait, where's the thing? It's supposed to be popping up. So don't do what I just did, which is get tunnel vision on one thing. Remember to back up and take a look at the entirety of OBS. Otherwise, yeah, that'll be embarrassing. So cool. So you should be able to see on my.
So we have this intermission scene that has nothing in it, right? So click on that. Now we're going to need to add in a source. And at this point, we're going to add in a video. So if you click on that, you'll see a number of different things that you can add. The two things that are going to be the most important for you in here is one that says display capture, which we already have. That is on our desktop one. But that's how you just do that. You can also use window capture. There's a bunch of other things in here, but we're not going to bother with that. Go to media source. This is going to be the one for showing a video. And now from that video, we can select any number of videos that we have. We're going to need to have something pre-done for this video. So, you know, have an MP4 ready to go for this.
What do I have on here that I can use?
You can use the lobby one again, just to show it.
Sure. That's probably this first media source. So cool. So we'll just do that.
And you'll notice that there's also in that intermission inside the media source, if you go into the settings gear down by the plus and the minus. So in there, there's going to be some options to loop it, which you might want to do if you don't know how long that transition is going to be, to give people whatever, as much time as they want or as little time as they need in between them. In which case then, you know, when you're creating the video that it's going to get looped, probably build it in a way where it looks like it naturally transitions rather than suddenly cutting to the old version of it.
Right.
Unless you want to have that sort of GIF kind of look.
Right. Cool.
But
okay.
That is a choice, yeah.
So hit OK.
So yeah, now let's put the intermission after the desktop, but before the closing. Yeah, just move it up. Yeah. So that way, like what you're seeing here is a natural flow so that you don't have to think. You want to think as little as possible while you're working and set yourself up for success by naming things well and by putting them in a sane order. So now we have that, and you'll see it's a blank screen right now. When we hit the transition button, it moves into the video. Now, you'd also want to make sure to mute the audio here as well, because otherwise your cast is going to be heard over the video, unless you want that. But muting the audio on the media source will turn off the audio on the video too, which is what you just did. And the only way that you know that is by seeing the sound bar there. Now, you can also adjust the volume of that sound bar. If it's peaking too much, if it's getting into the red, you'll kind of want it to be kind of close to the, you'd want it to be close in the yellow. So anyone who's speaking, you want them in the yellow. And any underscoring or music, you want that in the green, if possible.
Great. And obviously this blue thing is how you would adjust your volume.
That's right. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. So keep the audio levels about the same for the whole show, because otherwise people are going to be adjusting their volumes at home. And then when you blow their speakers out, they're going to be really mad at you. Right. So watch out for that.
As much as possible, we want to help them maintain suspension of disbelief. And if they're constantly having to muck about with their computer, then they're no longer focused on the show.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so that's basically how you do that. Now you also notice those quick transitions there. There's a cut, there's a fade to black, there's a fade 1,000 milliseconds. There's a bar that you can sort of fade manually by doing that. Now it's slowly transitioning into the other one, see? All those things are things you can play with.
Right, and if you want to, you can also create another transition.
Yeah.
Where you want to do, you don't like 300 milliseconds, you like 200 milliseconds, or you want to do a 5-second fade. You can go in there, you can create another one, and it would just be another button down here.
Right, and you can also delete buttons you don't need.
Right. If you don't want to do a fade to black at all, you simply get rid of it, remove it.
Yeah. So a lot of this is about customizing the layout so that it's easy for you to work with this thing.
Cool. Can we do a desktop, because we haven't shown people how to do the basic setup of a desktop at all.
Yeah, let's create a second desktop. This one we're going to use the other monitor. We're going to use the OBS monitor.
Cool.
So let's create
desktop
we're not going to call it desktop 2. That's bad. Let's call it OBS desktop.
Oh, you're taking all the fun out of it. All right, OBS desktop it is. Great.
All right, so now it's nothing. We need to add into that a source. In this case, we're going to use display capture. And then we're going to grab the one of the displays that it's going to offer us.
So right now it's offering me the laptop, because that's where I have my Zoom window.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is it offering you also the OBS monitor itself, or the, so there should be laptop and then monitor, right?
There is
or like
not.
You say display 0 and display 1, right?
Nope. I only have create new, display capture, and add existing laptop.
Okay, don't add existing, because that's what we've already created. We're going to do a new one.
Great.
And there it is. And now you'll see that you need to resize it, right?
Yes.
Whew. And if you're seeing infinite OBSs, that's what you're going to get when you look at the OBS through OBS. So resize it to whatever level you want. You can crop out the bottom or the top if you like, or you can just show, like some bar on it or something like that. You can make it whatever size you like.
That'll work.
Sure. Okay. Cool. That's it. That's your new scene. Order it inside of the scenes so that it's sane for you, probably before closing. But yeah. And so now you can use that to transition back and forth too.
Right. So if I have this as this is over here in my preview, so I would did a 300 millisecond fade into the wacky world of recursive windows.
It's that way.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I am actually
so
going
yeah, and that's mostly what you need. So in order to do this, besides OBS, it's a good idea for you to get from whoever is producing your show, unless you're producing your show, or they didn't think about it, and now you're producing their show even though they didn't explicitly say, hey, you're producing our show.
Right.
You're going to need to create videos or get the videos that you need for your opening and your closing. And if you have an intermission, one for that also. Or however the show is structured. OBS is designed to be highly configurable for different kinds of shows.
And when you say get the videos, you mean go out, find them on Google, hopefully they're freely available, not copyrighted, et cetera, and then you would drop them into a folder somewhere. On my OBS, it wants to find everything in my movies folder, so I'm not going to argue with it. I'm just going to drop everything in movies folder. Maybe I'll make a subfolder that says Impro Theater, Fairy Tale, Impro Theater, Twilight Zone, et cetera, et cetera. And now I've got all of those movies in there, and I could just direct it to find them following the system that we just did here.
Correct. And you can even use OBS to record videos yourself.
Right.
For example, we can do that. Let's go into settings real quick. So there should be a part in settings that says recording or something, or audio. There's like a recording thing in there. Yeah. See, I'm guessing audio is probably what, or not audio. Output, I think, is what we need. Yeah. And you'll see there's a recording path here. So you can choose what that recording path is. If you don't want it dropping into your movies folder, you can make it go someplace else.
Right.
What?
I said right.
Yeah. And then you'll see that it's saying recording format MKV. There's a reason for that. MKV formats allow for the recording to happen in real time. If you use MP3 or MP4, even though that's common, if your stream falls apart, so will the recording. So usually what I do is I set it to MKV, and then I do something called remuxing the recording afterwards to create the MP4.
And that's just hitting a button.
Yeah, in fact, we can just do a real quick version of this right now. Let's go ahead and just hit start recording. We can get out of this for now, and we'll come back to the settings in a second. So if you hit start recording, hey, we're recording a thing. This is a thing. And go ahead and stop recording. Now, that's going to have no audio because we didn't turn on the mics when we did that. So notice that. Make sure to have the mics on.
Right.
But you'll see that there's a video now, or a .mkv file in that movies folder, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to go into OBS, and there's going to be a thing that says file and says remux recordings.
Well, here, let's go into my movies folder.
Sure.
And there is the thing that we just created. So cool.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go into OBS and remux recordings right underneath file.
Yes. And then drag it and drop it in and hit the remux button.
So go to movies. A little slow. I'm stressing my poor computer. And hit remux.
Yeah, and that's it. Now you have an MP4. And you can use that MP4 in your show if you want to. Or for that matter, have your producer do it. Or give you a thing.
Right, and you can see here that it's turned it into an MP4, and also that it's not just a generic icon, but it's telling you that there's an actual video there, so you'll know that, oh great, it worked.
Yeah, and then you can use that MP4 as a media source.
Right.
We're not going to do that right now, but that's basically how it's going to work. But that's how you can record with this. Now, when we stream, we're going to need to go into settings again. And this is a key thing for when we actually broadcast on the air. So you see there's a stream thing there as one of the settings, right? And in the stream, you'll see there's a stream key. Don't show that stream key on the air. Not on this, this recording either. But there is a show button, and if you were to hit it, which you should not, Robert.
You're making me want to hit it.
Don't. That key.
I feel like Groot.
Yeah. If you hit that button and you show everyone that key, then everyone on the internet who sees this video can stream to your channel.
I am Groot. All right, fine.
So that's why it's important. You'll see a Get Stream Key button there on the side. That'll send you straight to Twitch. And it'll send you straight to whatever your channel is that is your personal one. So you may need to ask your producer for the stream key for their channel that they're broadcasting to. And you must keep that secret and keep it safe, because if you don't, then anyone on the internet can stream to your producer's channel, and they won't be very happy about that. So this is a high trust kind of a thing going on here. So once you have that stream key in there and it's right, then you can hit the stream button and you'll be online.
Right, and
there's going to be a delay of about 2 seconds.
And right now, we're looking at using Twitch. That's so that should be a default option, and you just go with Twitch.
Yeah,
you don't have to
number
worry
of
about
others.
anything else.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool. And now, anything in the general settings that we need to remind people to do?
Let's take a look in here. Everything that's basically here should be good for you.
Fantastic.
You can also change the theme if you don't want the dark theme. You can do that, but I like the dark theme.
Yep.
Usually because I'm streaming in the dark anyway, and bright white lights in my face at night sucks.
Yes.
So
okay.
There's that.
So we've
There's
already
the
gone through the stream.
Yep.
Output.
You want to keep that kind of what you're seeing here. Audio. Now, Robert has two audios using. One of them says background music, and one of them says built-in microphone. And this is where we get into the complexity of audio. So the built-in microphone should be available to you on Mac already. You can stream with just the built-in, just that mic. What you would do is turn your speakers up pretty loud and make sure that the sound bounces off your walls well and back into your microphone. The sound is going to be weird and tinny and as if everyone is doing a performance in a bathroom. But you will get audio.
Needs must if the devil drives.
Yeah. Better is if you use something like background music, like what Robert has pre-installed, and it shows up as an option automatically once you install background music. There's other ones like I Show You, and Loop Back is another one. Some of these are free, some of these cost money. Some of them are easier to use. Some of them are harder to use, but are free. Some of them give you more options, but cost money. So it depends on what you're wanting to do. But background music is just going to take all of the sound on your desktop and just shove it right in there. So that includes anything that your cast is talking about, with the exclusion of you, unless, of course, you turn on your mic, which is one of the reasons why you should definitely have earphones in when you're working with this, so that you don't get pollution between those two channels that way.
Right. And I will say background music is not perfect by any stretch, but it is great because what I was doing when I was running tech for a couple of shows is I had Spotify open, I had my my iTunes open, and I had some YouTube channels open, and I was able to bounce between all three of those, pulling up whatever music I needed for the moment, and it was all feeding in, and I could control the volume from each of those individual applications. Controlling volume is another big pain in the ass when you're on a Mac. I'm assuming not for a PC. Yeah, that's another issue for another day. But background music, while it might not be the best, is not a bad application to use if you want to go the free route.
Yeah, and the same thing can be done with I Show You. Basically, the idea with both of those apps is that what you hear in your headphones is the same mix of audio levels that the show is doing.
Cool. So
yeah.
Oh, so we've done pretty much with the whole audio.
Yeah, we'll say that's done for now.
Cool.
It's a good idea to create a checklist for yourself about audio before you run the show, because it's really easy to misconfigure something. And then there's nothing worse than just having the chat going like, no sound, can't hear them, what's up with this? And then you just watch the numbers dwindle as people decide to leave and they just give up on you. That sucks. So
I think it's probably best that you always be a part of a dress rehearsal and you get your system in place so that you just plug the system in again.
Yeah, and test the audio on your own channel that no one's watching, or a second channel that no one watches, so that you can verify that, okay, the audio's good, video's good, you're getting good quality, okay, let's move forward. Definitely do that like the day before.
Oh, great. So now in the video, I originally had this popping up at 1920 by 1080, and you recommended we drop down to 720p.
Yes.
Cool. And bicubic sharpening, we have options, but bicubic is generally a little better. And we want to keep it at 30 frames per second because that's kind of the web standard. There are, you can make arguments for 24 being more filmic, but really it doesn't matter.
And with a better computer, like a rig that is designed specifically for this, you could increase that base canvas resolution, that output scaled resolution, and that common frames per second. But optimized for any Mac, this is a pretty good set of video settings.
Right. And then hotkeys, if you want to start setting up hotkeys, eventually this is probably a great idea if you're getting heavy into this because it allows you to move faster and, but not something you have to do right now.
Right. And then there's some advanced options in there as well. We're pretty much never going to touch that for now. At some point in the future you might, but not necessary for the moment.
Right. Great. So that is, bless you, all of the settings. Is there anything else that we need to go over for just a basic run through for folks?
No, but what you should do as your homework is set up the system, create yourself a Twitch account if you don't have one already, go to your Twitch page, and then try to broadcast a little mini show that has a lobby, your desktop of you doing just a few quick things, making some sounds and making sure that you can be heard, and then the closing, and then stop streaming, and then see if the video works.
Great. That is something that I will do, and once I figure out how to do it properly, I'll make a video showing people how I done did it. So that is on my to-do list. And as far as resources for helping people learn more about this stuff, Twitch has a ton of tutorials. YouTube is obviously a great thing. There was a Zoom tutorial webinar thing that I went to where a woman who's a stage manager in Hawaii has a humongous list of tutorials, which I will be posting to the Zoom Prov Facebook page. It's available for everyone, so I'm not talking out of school with that. Aside from those, hopefully we'll be making more of these. Kenzie is supposed to be very involved in audio, so hopefully we'll get some stuff up with her. But do you know of any other recommendations for people to learn on their own?
Yeah, do it on your own. Go figure it out. When you encounter a problem, give yourself about 30 minutes to puzzle it out on your own, Google it, and then if that doesn't work, go ahead and post something in the Zoom Prov group, and someone in the hive mind will have an answer for you.
Cool.
But try and figure it out first on your own. Try and get it up and running. Do the dumbest possible thing. Don't get fancy. So yeah, there's only so much that watching tutorials can give you. They can help you out, sort of give you some guides, but ultimately you're going to learn by doing it. So just do it.
And it's important to remember that you can't break anything. I mean, you can put a setting in and forget that you put it in and blah, 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 but you can scorch earth it and just delete the install and bring it back in. It'll take you 10 seconds and get everything back up and running. You're not going to break your computer or ruin anything. If you already have things saved, okay, maybe you have to redo them, but that's just more practice.
Yeah, the key thing here is don't wait till the date of the show to try and see whether your stuff works. Right. Practice on your own channel every once in a while. Just put up a little stupid something and just see if it does. And you'll learn things that way.
Perfect. I think that is everything then. I am going to stop the recording unless you have any last words for our kids and families at home.
I said my last words, and I stand by them.
As you should.